All right, y'all. All right, we about to get started. So I'm before I even go in with introductions, I just want to say that this is hella dope to have y'all into this space, right? High schoolers, there's a couple middle schoolers in here too. To come into this space and talk about mental health awareness. I think this is an important topic because you guys are transitioning into adulthood, and there's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations that come along with that, right? So it's important for us to understand ourselves and how to manage our emotions or manage ourselves when these times come. We're going to be talking about some deep things. Got my panel up here. I'll be facilitating it, and all I ask for everyone here in the space is just to be respectful of everybody that's speaking up here. If y'all could just take a second and put y'all phones on silent, I need to do that too. So that way we're not interrupted, and I really want y'all to be able to gain something from this, because when I was y'all age, I wasn't given this information, and I feel like when I transitioned into adulthood, I had a hard time in my early 20s. So when I started this program, I said I wanted to be able to give you guys the information that I wasn't given when I was younger, so that y'all have a better chance at life. So we're gonna run through this panel. Panel's gonna run for about 45 minutes. And then we're gonna save the end for questions. So if you have any questions or anything that you wanna speak on, just save it towards the end. Like, we're all looking forward to hearing from you all as well. And then after the panel, we're gonna have like a little intermission, and then we're gonna break y'all into groups. And then you guys are gonna discuss amongst yourselves some of the questions that we're asking as well too. So shouts out to everybody that made it. We got El Cerrito in the building. Where El Cerrito at? Okay. It's too early. And then we got Hercules High. Where Hercules High at? Oh man. Okay. So my name is Emmanuel. I'm the founder of StudioFive10. We're in 10 schools in Richmond. Hercules High, El Cerrito High being one of them. So shout out to Frank for holding down El Cerrito, and shout out to Bianca for holding down Hercules High. Again, I thank everybody for being here, and without further ado, let me introduce the panel. Okay, y'all can't be scared on the mic. Y'all on the panel now.
My name's Clover Marie Alejandro. Wait, what do I say?
Did I sing?
What? I'm a senior at Hercules High School. At Hercules High School, I am the founder and president of our mental health advocacy club. I run a lot of events and groups at Hercules High School for student awareness regarding advocacy and student rights, along with making sure campus is a safe space for students and people who need the extra support on campus.
I am Miss Bianca. I'm at Hercules High School.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Mr. Frank. I'm at El Cerrito High School.
My name is Justice Gilmore. I'm a senior at El Cerrito. Yeah.
Appreciate y'all. And then my panel, if y'all could do me a favor, when y'all speaking, can y'all speak up loud for my folks in the back so everybody can hear y'all? So my first question to you all is, what are the benefits of identifying your childhood traumas? So when we think of childhood traumas, I think a lot of time we talk about like things that maybe occurred in our household, but a childhood trauma could be being bullied at school. A childhood trauma could be, not growing up with a lot of money and having to deal with, the things that come with that, right? It doesn't always have to be, what goes on in the household, right? But I want to ask you all that question again. So what are the benefits of identifying your childhood traumas?
For me, the benefits are just being able to figure out why you are the way you are, because a lot of the times we grow up not even recognizing our traumas. We put them in our minds, in the back of our minds, and then we grow up to be these kind of ways. We'll be angry, resentful, not unknowingly, pushing people away. So recognizing your childhood trauma is so important, because it gives you the opportunity to break it down and really do the work to heal past it.
All right, I can go. So I think identifying your childhood traumas is very important. I'll be vulnerable and say that my childhood trauma was growing up in a community with lots of gun violence. A lot of my friends that I grew up with were killed via gun violence, and it had a major effect on me. I could say that it turned me into a person that was on defense mode. It turned me into a person that was always like watching my surroundings and feeling like I could possibly be next. And I feel like it just put me in a space where I wasn't as open as I am now. And as far as like the healing process that I had to go through, I had to practice self-care. Self-care may not work for some. Some may need to go and talk to a professional therapist. Some may need to talk to a trusted adult. Also, another thing that I did, I was dealing with the trauma in high school. So what I was doing was, when I had a chance to do different assignments, so my teachers would assign like writing assignments on trauma or impactful situations in my life, I would write on some things that happened in my community, and that was a way for me to cope.
It's just well, I think I'm still kind of like identifying the childhood traumas that existed and exist in my life, since I'm still pretty young, I think. But I know that it is very important to identify those things, because like with identification comes growth, right? If you don't ever figure out what those things were that were holding you back, or those things that were in your life that might have been an obstacle that you overcame eventually, if you never identify how you overcame it, then you will never have those skills in the future, right? Because you might need them again in the future. So I think just the word identification comes growth, and knowledge, and being able to think for yourself in the future in similar situations.
I'm currently working through a lot of my childhood trauma as we speak. I'm going to open up and say I did not have a great relationship with my father, and as of right now, my father is disabled. And watching my father slowly grow from a person who I resented, and then seeing him slowly deteriorate as a person in a sense, made me have to face a lot of my trauma, and realizing the reason why a lot of the things happen is because hurt people hurt people. And realizing that made me think about what he was going through and what I was going through, and realizing, oh, the reason why he was taking out a lot of his anger was because he was hurt, because he was going through so much. And realizing those kinds of stuff gives you a different perspective on how you view people, because you never know what people are going through, and it goes with you as well. They never know what you're going through, and the healing process in those kinds of situations, showing yourself forgiveness, showing others kindness, I feel like having the empathy towards yourself and towards others really helps identify the trauma that you are facing. Yeah.
Thank you. For my high school students in here, you guys are like going through like a developmental stage in your life right now. So you're molding and shaping yourself, your personality, everything. So all your experiences at this level is molding and shaping you into the adult that you're gonna be, right? So I think a lot of times younger folks feel like, I don't really have to worry about that stuff until I'm 18. I'm still young. But it's not like you can just snap your fingers when you're 18 and just become something that you want, right? It's important for you to start identifying those things now so you could be ahead of the game. Thank you all for answering that question. My follow-up question for that is, what do you think could happen to someone who doesn't identify those traumas and doesn't do the work to figure out, what's necessary in order for them to heal?
Well, from personal experience, me not doing the work put me in a position where I kind of felt like I was alone, but because I pushed other people away, having like resentment, or even having a bad relationship with myself, down talking myself. So I think if you don't identify it, you kind of put yourself in a hole and put yourself at a disadvantage, because as you grow, you're going to run into problems and not know how to face them. So it's important to just identify those and take the time with yourself and with a therapist if that's the case, and do the work for real. It's important.
All right, for me, I feel like if you don't identify your childhood traumas, you could suffer from depression, isolation, kind of lack of being social. I have a personal example, also a family situation. My older cousin, she was an individual who was an amazing young lady. She played the piano. She was really, really smart, and her mother passed away. And she wasn't there when her mother passed away, and that haunted her, and that kind of ate her up for life. And now, like, she's kind of went off the deep end in a sense. She's schizophrenic, she's homeless, and it's just a lot going on. So she never addressed her childhood traumas, and it kind of just ate her up in a sense. So, I mean, it's really important to address it and heal from it.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was very fortunate to kind of experience what it's like to have all those emotions like bubble up and explode at once, you know what I'm saying? And it's not good, you know what I'm saying? It's not good for the people around you, and it's not good for you. So I think it's very important to find mediums to express your emotions and just to talk, just to vent, because if you don't get those things out, like I said, I believe they'll bubble up and they'll come out in the worst way possible, at the worst time possible. And yeah. So I think you should just be able to get it out when you need to, and easily.
I have seen how trauma can manifest in both good and bad. I see a lot of people that I personally know who deal with trauma in very not good ways. Some people will abuse drugs or drink a lot as a way of coping to avoid the issues. I feel like with facing your issues and kind of looking at yourself in a mirror and just having a safe space to be able to express those emotions, to express those traumas, really does help. Facing trauma is never an easy thing. It's a very hard process to go through. And it's a rocky road, but you always find a way through, because in the end, when you do feel like you're healing, when you look at your trauma in the face and work through it, you become a better person in a sense. You feel like there's a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, and it sounds simple, right? Identifying your childhood traumas and addressing them, but sometimes, you're opening wounds that you may not want to open up, right? You may start having conversations with yourself that, you tried to tuck under the rug, right? So I always say, like, if you're going through this process, it's important to find a trusted adult, or if you're fortunate enough to have a therapist, share that experience with them, so you have support along the journey, right? It may not feel good in the moment, but when you actually go through that process, you're gonna start feeling refreshed. So my next question for you all is, how can relationships affect your mental health, right? So when we think relationships, we automatically thinking boyfriend, girlfriend, but relationships doesn't have to just be that. A relationship could be your relationship with your parent, which sometimes can be really hard, because it's like, this is your mom, this is your dad, this is the person that take care of you, but your relationship is not the best, and it's affecting your mental health, right? This could be your relationship with your friends or a significant other. So my question to you all is how can relationships affect your mental health?
For me personally, my mental health is definitely affected by the relationships I have with others, as well as the relationship I have with myself. And I think that if you don't surround yourself with good people, and I tell my students this all the time, be around people who make you feel good. Because if you don't, you'll start overthinking, you could become depressed. And like Mr. Frank said, you'll feel isolated. It's so many different emotions you could feel just by being surrounded by the wrong people, or having unhealthy relationships, toxic relationships. Even the way somebody talks to you. If they're if you're in a relationship with a guy or a girl and they're talking to you, talking down on you, you can take all that in, and that's who you'll become. So it's important to just be mindful of the relationships you have with others as well as yourself, because it really does play a big part on who you are and how you are.
I think similar to Bianca, relationships are definitely really key. For me, I'm really big on building relationships. I feel like it's something that is really essential to me. I'm a person that's always trying to greet folks and trying to check in with folks, see how they're doing mentally, see how they're doing physically, spiritually, and just being that anchor and being that person that people can go to. Similar to like she was saying also, if you're in toxic relationships, it can cause you to worry, it can cause you to stress, and that alters like your mental state, and that affects how you treat people. So it's very important to make sure that you're having healthy relationships and being around people that care about you.
No, that's real. I think that's like one of the realest impacts on your life, especially around this age. You have so many influences in your life and they mold you at a certain point, you know what I'm saying? And just letting the right energy around you just be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people will just have certain things that they say and it's just negative, and that shit will just get around. I'm sorry. Those things will just be around you, and those things will surround you and encapsulate and take over your mind. You feel what I'm saying? So I think it's very important to, like we were saying, like they were saying, identify, like see where you see those negative things at, and see how you can like maybe push away from them or better those things. You know what I'm saying? Replace those negative energies for positive energies, because those things will eventually make you a better human being, I believe. So.
As I've said previously, hurt people, and I believe that the actions that we have really do impact how we stem our relationship with others, because kindness can really go such a far way. A simple compliment or just greeting someone, saying hi, can really change the way someone can feel and really can change them. Noticing the toxicity in relationships, not only with like parents or girlfriends, boyfriends, even friends as well, those influence a lot of how you behave, how you think, and having that toxicity around you enables the toxicity in yourself as well. From what I've seen, being around people who are bad for you can be very draining for your mental health. And I've seen it firsthand, not only from myself, but other people as well. When going into those kinds of relationships, I feel like looking at yourself is very important, showing yourself kindness in those situations, and surrounding yourself with kindness and love, and realizing that sometimes I don't deserve the bad things that happen to me, and you deserve better, and just stepping away from situations to kind of reflect and to think is so important.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for you all to start thinking about this now, because again, I said you're going through this developmental stage, right? So you can begin to normalize having unhealthy relationships with people. So when you do become an adult, it's normal to you, right? So could you all speak on maybe like an experience that you may have had, like an unhealthy relationship, and how that impacted your life?
I guess not. So when I had my daughter, I was in a horrible relationship, and the person spoke so bad about me that, and it was during COVID, so I was isolated, that's who I thought I was. Like, that's all I seen. I looked in the mirror and that's what I seen. Every bad thing that they said. And because I couldn't take my anger out on that person, I started to take it out on those around me. So it started to affect my relationship with my best friends, my sisters, my parents. And it took for me to be literally alone and lose like some of my best friends to realize like, okay, at some point I'm the problem. Because although I was in that toxic situation, I didn't do the work to heal myself and to really tell myself like, girl, what are you doing? Get up, like stand up. You got this. Like what that person is saying, that's not who you are. You know who you are. So stand on that. Stand on who you know you are, and not let other people create your story or create your narrative. So I think it's really important to, once you in a toxic situation, remove yourself as soon as possible, and don't, especially as women, we like to see potential. Don't fall in love with potential. Fall in love with what you see in front of you.
All right, so for me, I honestly can't say that I've been in like an unhealthy or toxic relationship. I'm big on protecting my peace. That's something that I'm big on. So I can say that I actually am in a healthy relationship, and I can speak from that point of view. I can say that my relationship is really healthy because me and my partner communicate. Me and my partner support each other, and then also me and my partner also talk about our childhood trauma together. So we've laughed about it. We've cried about it together, and it's like we go through things together. We support each other. We know about each other, and it helps like strengthen our bond in our relationship.
Yeah, I think, or my example would be, I had a friend who was really good to like we were really good friends, and I never saw much bad in them because they were a really good friend to me. But just everywhere around me, like, nobody had like great things to say about them, you know what I'm saying? And anytime, like, the more that I was around them, the more that they viewed us as you know what I'm saying? Oh, they associated me with him, right? And then they associated his behavior with my behavior. I'm like, well, I know I'm not that type of person, so I never really saw it as that. But it took for like a big blow up between, I think, like me and my mom, for it to be like, wow, okay, like, this is an influence in my life that I don't feel like is bringing me down, but other people can see how it could bring me down in the future, and this isn't the path that I need to be leading myself down. So I think the people who actually did care for me, they were the ones who were really able to help me get through those trials and tribulations and those trying times.
It's hard for me to just pick one story about a toxic relationship that I've noticed, not only like firsthand, but also in friends. I believe that, like Bianca said, women have a tendency to see the potential, but I believe it's just in our culture in general where we romanticize toxicity. And lots of it does stem from the romanticization of like someone who can like be very protective, very like strong, but that can also be very toxic and very controlling. What I've seen personally, people can be hurt and manipulated so much where they believe that, oh, a person can be good. For a long time, I think 4 or 5 years, my friends would defend this guy saying, oh, even though he's done bad stuff, even though he's messed up in the past, he's changed. But he really didn't change. He would just say, oh, I changed. But his actions would say otherwise. He would continue to hurt the people around him. And even when people would come out telling about the abuse that they suffered from this guy, they'd be like, no, he's changed. I think with those kinds of relationships, some people are just so stuck in their head about how they feel that they refuse to change. But just because they seem stuck in that moment, that doesn't mean that they'll forever be like that. Sometimes it can just be like that one push to make them realize, oh, I was gonna hurt. Oh my gosh, I'm in a toxic relationship. And for people who do recognize how they feel, it will be such a relief when they do see it and they do have the chance to like step away. Yeah.
Thank you. Nah, you good. I was right on time too. I appreciate y'all sharing that. You know, relationships is like really important, right? Because like the people that you're around, like their habits can become your habits, right? The whole birds of a feather flock situation. Now, when you are looking for someone that you feel like is going to be healthy for you, what are some things that you look for? You know, I feel like a lot of us may not know what to look for, right? Because that's all we probably ever been around is toxic people or situations, right? Remember when I said normalizing? So could you all share some things that you may look for in a person when you're like, okay, this person is good for me?
For myself, I always pay attention to how they treat random people they don't know. Like, because you could see a man on the ground and you could either laugh, walk over him, or offer him a hand, right? So to me, that's very important. I want to see how you interact with just anybody and how you interact with yourself. Like, do you speak highly of yourself, Are you always pushing yourself, motivating yourself? So I look for that in somebody who's just aligned with me mentally, like somebody I can have those real conversations with, somebody I can say exactly what I feel when I feel it, somebody who will also do the same, and somebody who is honest. Like, for me, that's very important, honesty. The good honesty, the bad honesty, as long as you're honest, I can respect that. So that's one of the main things.
All right, for me, I would definitely agree with Bianca. I think I also monitor others' interactions, others' habits and routines. I also try to find people that are similar to myself. So for me, I'm calm. I'm a giver. I'm community driven. So different things like that. So I try to kind of intertwine myself with others and kind of just mesh together in a sense.
Yeah, I agree with them both. Yeah, I think you should look for, I'm still pretty young, so I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? I think you should look for, in like just relationships that the people around you, you should look for people who have certain goals and certain commonalities. You don't want people who are going down the path of, you know what I'm saying, they don't have a future, they don't feel like they have a future, they're not looking towards a future, right? Because then you won't be looking towards the future, and that's how your life will become, I believe. But I also think being able to I think it's about like just a person, how you perceive them, and just how you perceive that your potential with them will be, and how y'all can collaborate and make things in the future. Yeah, and what you both can gain from the relationship mentally, you know, spiritually, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Stay kind of learning.
One of the biggest aspects I feel like in relationships with people is finding emotional availability, because I feel like with lots of the people that I often attract, they're people who don't know how to express their emotions in a healthy sense. They tend to like bottle it up, and finding someone who has the maturity to open up and to speak with each other and to communicate is so important. Also finding someone who has your best interest in mind. With a lot of toxic relationships, they will often enable you to do bad things, or they will enable the bad in you. So finding someone who does bring the positive things out of you and who has your best interest in mind will really make you thrive.
Thank you. So my last and final question is, how do you practice self-care, right? I think that it's really dope that at this, time in our lives that, there's not this big stigma around mental health. I think when I was you all age, like to talk about mental health, it was like you crazy or something, right? But I feel like we've destigmatized that, which is great. And we hear a lot about self-care, right? Self-care. And self-care can be different for everybody, right? Like my self-care is spending a lot of time alone to reflect. I like to be in nature. I like to go on hikes, and different things like that. So for you all, like, what are some of the things that you do to practice self-care?
For me, setting boundaries. That's my favorite thing, because I could give people the opportunity to treat me how I want them to be treated. So self-care and boundaries, to me, go hand in hand. Also, like Emmanuel said, spending time alone. Like, I find so much satisfaction in being alone sometimes, because that helps me build a relationship with myself, figure things out, reflect, and just love on me. Like, talk to myself nicely, give myself compliments, and going to therapy. That's self-care. And yeah.
All right, for me, so I think self-care for me is really huge. I'm a person that will go on a long drive. I like to listen to music for self-care. I'm a person that also likes to play basketball. I enjoy sitting on a pier and going fishing and just enjoying time to myself. I'm also a person that'll go and get a pedicure, get my feet done. That's self-care to me also. So just taking care of myself.
Yeah, I agree with Frank. I think taking care of yourself is a great way. I think I'm still trying to identify. I think I know that communication and being able to talk to someone or talk to a trusted person in your life that can hear you out or just share some of the things that you that you go through is good for you. But I think at this age, it's kind of hard for me to go to that trusted person. Like, I think that going to them step is kind of hard for me. But I believe once, like, you get to that step, getting to that person that you can vent to and talk to and have them share those emotions with you, I think that's one of the best ways to get through things. And that's one of the best ways to express self-care, I believe.
I believe saying no is such an important thing that we don't talk about enough. And I think that's something where that's such a good form of self-care, saying no to people and learning how to not be a people pleaser. Because I feel like with myself especially, I try my best to constantly be the best for people, try to show up for them, but it can be very draining. So saying no, taking time for yourself is how I practice self-care, and kind of just, it's going to sound cheesy, but really meditating and kind of saying, I am good, I deserve better. That really does help, because just saying those kinds of things to yourself, you got to fake it till you make it, really. And if you continue saying those kinds of stuff in one way or another, you're going to believe it.
Dope. I feel like that's a form of affirmations, right? Being able to say those things to yourself every day. I know for myself, I'm super busy all the time, so self-care is like really important to me. It's like a necessity. If I don't take care of myself, then how am I going to be able to take care of my people? And I feel like that's the same thing that you all should adopt too. And as you see, like, everybody has their own way for self-care. Like, some people is listening to music, right? And then we also have to be careful what kind of music we're listening to, because sometimes that could be detrimental to our self-care. So, there's a lot of benefits from it. My thing when it comes to mental health is it's really important. It's really important. And I feel like there's a lot of benefits to it too. Like, when I first was introduced to, self-care, mental health and all of that, like, I had this idea of, like, you always supposed to be perfect. Like, you always supposed to be in a good mood, but that's not true. Like, it's inevitable. Like, we're all gonna have those moments where we feel discouraged. We all gonna have those moments where we sad and down and not feeling our best. But it's all about, like, what can you do when you get to that place? Like, a lot of times when we fall deep into those places, when we feel like that, a lot of times we do things that's detrimental to our mental health, right? And so we have to start figuring out, like, what are these things that I can practice, when I start feeling like that, right? And that's that's identifying, self-management. When I feel like this, what do I do? You may not be able to go on a jog all the time, right? So you might have to do some deep breathing exercises. I know sometimes when I'm not really in a good space, I'll excuse myself real quick to the bathroom and go do some deep breathing exercises. That's something that I can do on the spot. So for you all, what are some of the benefits that you saw in your life when you started practicing some of these things?
For me, I feel like I was just genuinely happy. Like, everything positive was just coming to me. I think I was reflecting positivity, so it was just pouring down on me as well. So, yeah.
I could honestly agree. A lot more happier, and then also just able to kind of provide more for my people. Similar to what some of the panelists said, I'm naturally a person that's a giver. I'm naturally a person that's always trying to be there for someone, and it can be really, really draining. So I think just practicing self-care, it gives me a time to kind of sit back and reflect and just take care of myself. You can't, like Emmanuel said, you can't take care of others if you're not mentally there.
Yeah, you want to be the best you that you can be. So I think it's important that you find yourself and find what's best for you. Not what's, anything, nothing is perfect, but the best things that are in your life and the best things that you want in your life. And can you repeat the question one more time? I feel like there's...
So it's like, so how has your life benefited from you practicing self-care?
Right. So yeah, like I said, finding the best you. I think I've been able to find, like, I'm getting very close to finding what I want in myself and what I want in the people around me. And I'm able to, like, see immediately the negatives and be able to push them away and see immediately, well, it's not immediately, but see the positives and how they may be able to positively interact with my life. So, yeah.
I noticed when I started like taking care of myself and focusing on myself, it really made me improve. I became leading with my heart and realizing that not everyone has my best interest in mind made me better as a person, because I really stepped up and started taking care of myself, being the one who kind of told myself like, oh, I deserve better, and kind of I felt better because I knew that with that kind of growth and improvement, I became happier in a sense. Yeah.
So, by show of hands, how many of y'all have a self-care routine or things to take care of yourself? Okay. What I would encourage everybody to do is spend some time alone, spend some time by yourself. I know sometimes it's hard for us to do because we like sit with our thoughts when we do that. But spend some time with yourself, get to know yourself. That's really important. A person that knows themselves, they know their triggers, they know their traumas, right? They know how to heal themselves when they're, in these situations where they're not feeling at their best. That's somebody that's on the right track, right? So I really encourage everybody in this room to really spend some time and reflect and ask yourself these questions, so that way you could be a step ahead of the game. So those are all my questions that I have for you all. So can we clap it up for our panel, y'all? Thank you. And also, I just want to clap it up. I want y'all to clap it up for yourselves too. Because this is dope. This is dope. I feel like this is something that is definitely needed, especially in the Black community. I feel like we've experienced a lot of trauma, and I think that in our culture we, a lot of times sweep stuff under the rug, instead of like really addressing situations. And I feel like, that's our real reparations, is for us to, heal ourselves. So I want to open up some questions to the crowd. So that could be any questions that y'all have for me or the panel up here.
Thanks.
Can you give us some advice on how to end a toxic relationship, friendship, or whatnot?
Well, it's a bunch of different ways. Sometimes the best thing is to say nothing. Just cut it off. Because sometimes you don't got to explain yourself to nobody. But also sometimes it's depending on your respect level and that person's way of communication. Have a conversation. I always tell people nobody can know what you need and how you need it if you don't say it. So definitely advocate for yourself and be honest and stand on how you feel and what you got to say. Don't let nobody direct you in a different path, even though you know what you want or what you need.
For me, I think one of the ways to get out of a toxic or unhealthy relationship is, again, communicating. Communicate your needs, communicate how you feel, communicate the support you need, and if you don't see change, protect your peace and move on.
Yeah, I believe you give people chances, and then once you are ready, then at that point, you should be ready, and you shouldn't be able to let anybody move you or move your opinion. Once that's your opinion, then that should be your opinion, and nobody should be able to change that. So if you feel that certain with somebody and you feel that certain, release them from your life, then I think that you shouldn't let them come back in any other way. You know what I mean?
With toxic relationships and kind of trying to manage your way through them, I believe that you can look, especially with like partners or friends that you've had for a long time. I've had to cut off a lot of friends who I've been since, like people I've known since childhood that did not serve my best interests. You can look at the moments you have with them and appreciate what happened, but just because there are good moments doesn't mean that they'll always be good. And sometimes just telling them, even though you you and I have good memories with each other, you are a bad person for me, and kind of cutting it off and just leaving it at that is the best solution. You are not owed anyone anything. Yeah.
You had questions?
My question is, how do you balance out your relationships, like between family, friends, and dealing with your significant others?
I think it's all about prioritizing yourself first, because you can't deal with all these different relationships. You don't even deal with yourself. And then for me, sometimes you gotta create a schedule, put people where they need to be in your life, like assess the importance of the relationship, how it helps you grow or how it hinders you, and then move from there.
For me, as far as like balancing my family and relationships and friends and all that, it can be really tough sometimes. I think that, again, you have to kind of prioritize. So for me, sometimes I see my parents every weekend. Sometimes I see them once a month. So, I mean, it just depends on how my life is going. So, again, I prioritize myself. I prioritize my family. And, I mean, just because you don't see someone every day doesn't mean that the love is not there. Everyone has to understand that people are busy and things happen. So you have to prioritize how you can.
I'm still working on it. I think they have good answers, though, so I'm listening to them.
This is going to be the realest answer from me. Using Google Calendar has really helped me. So like planning out my schedule and like kind of like prioritizing the days really helped me. Like saying, oh, 8 o'clock, I'm going here with this person, and then like kind of scheduling it. And then also spending time with yourself and having that time to recharge. As someone who's very introverted, I get very overwhelmed when I hang out with a lot of people at once, or just constantly seeing someone back to back to back. So kind of having that time for yourself to relax and to have that self-care really does help.
I got one more question. So we're talking about when we have to leave a toxic relationship and we most likely go into isolation. What are some feelings that arise? Like, I know for myself, being angry and mad at myself. What about like forgiveness? What are some experiences on self-forgiveness that you guys have?
For me, back to the conversation I said about the toxic relationship I was in, I'm usually like the strong friend, the outgoing, bubbly person. So that situation dimmed my light, and I had to, because I was mad at myself because I couldn't believe it. Like, girl, what? And so I had to really tell myself, like, how would you know? Like, some situations you go in unknowingly, not knowing what to expect or what you're going to get from it. But I went in genuine. So I think, wait, can you repeat it? Sorry.
Forgiveness. When you are alone with yourself and dealing with your emotions, meditating pretty much, and you don't have anybody in your corner anymore.
Journal. I journal a lot. I tell my students to journal. I like to paint. Like different forms of therapy for me, like art therapy, that really helped me. And just really forgiving myself because I'm not perfect, and I can't experience or know something without experiencing it for myself. So giving myself grace, because like I keep saying, I'm not perfect. I'm human. It happens. Stuff happens. So yeah.
I think when it comes to forgiveness, sometimes you can be hard on yourself. Sometimes you can feel like you knew better. You shouldn't have did that. But I think with all of the situations, it's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to grow. You will make it out of that situation. So forgiving yourself and just moving forward and just growing from that process.
Yeah, sometimes that can be really hard for me, like when I feel like it's a mistake on my end that I didn't have to put myself into, or like I knew this was gonna be a mistake and like I already did it. And that can be like really hard for me to like shake myself out of. I think like the two ways I think I'm most work with that is I talk to my mom a lot. Like first person I go to, like it overwhelms me, and I just go talk to my mom. Like I know she'll help me. She'll have something to say to me, and I talk to myself. I like let myself know, yo, like I have this center. You know what I'm saying? And I need to be centered at some point. Like I can feel these emotions, but at some point I'll have to calm myself and come back down to this one. That it's in the past. It's been a moment. I can reflect on it, but it's happened, and now I can move from it and do something better from it. You feel what I'm saying?
Kind of with trying to navigate the feelings within a toxic relationship, I feel like the biggest thing that helped me, I'm gonna be so real, was having a pet or having like just a companion with me. Because with having like a pet or specifically a dog, because I have a dog, they show you unconditional love, and that's the kind of thing that really does help. And also like taking time for yourself, and then like kind of just what I did was trying to see the pros and cons of the relationship and seeing the good and the bad, because when you realize even though there was so much good stuff that happened in that relationship, it was so much better that I did leave because of all the negativity that this person brought into my life, and kind of reflecting and kind of thinking about how did this relationship serve me really helps with the process of healing. Yes. Yes.
So I wanted to speak on what you said about forgiveness. So for me, like the first time, like I can actually like remember seeing my dad, I was like 8. And on that day, he was on his way to prison. My dad was in and out of prison my whole life, was addicted to drugs. And I feel like, you know, his behavior and, you know, just the way he was moving, like really impacted my family a lot. You know, I would say my mom, along with all 6 of my other siblings, we were like really impacted by that. And I ain't gonna lie, like when I was younger, I used to say, I hate that man, you know, and it wasn't until I became, you know, around 17, 18, I started understanding the saying that you mentioned earlier about hurt people, right? And once I got a chance to like really learn my pop's story and everything that he been through, I can understand how like he didn't have the opportunity to address his childhood traumas, right? He dealt with a lot of trauma when he was younger, and he ain't know no better. He never had the opportunity to work on himself. So when he became an adult, you know, he, you know, did some things and was involved in some things that, you know, negatively impacted our family. So at that point, I was able to learn to forgive and not hold that against him. And I think for a lot of us, like when it comes to our parents, it's hard because like this is the person that brought us into this world, and we may not have the best relationship with our parents. Like even my mom, like that's my dog today, but you know, when I was your age, me and my mom, like it was real funk in the house. I say that to say that, you know, understanding that hurt people and just giving people grace. I'm not saying that, you know, you can allow the person to continue to abuse you. That's never okay. But just understanding that, you know, it comes from them not being able to address their traumas.
Me say something about it. In regards of forgiveness, like I've said earlier, my dad is now disabled. Growing up, realized my father was very mean and very abusive. And coming from an immigrant family, lots of the culture and lots of the traditional like values that they held were because of religion and because of how the culture was back in the Philippines. Lots of it was because they didn't believe in mental health. They believed that if I was going to a therapist, I would be crazy. And for a long time, I hated my father because of the amount of pain he would put me through. But when my father got diagnosed and looking at him like slowly deteriorate, I realized that the reason why he was hurting me was because he saw so much of himself in me. Because I would talk back, I would try to I would try to talk back to him and, you know, argue. And when he was diagnosed and I saw him like lose himself in a way, I came to realize the reason why he was hurting was, and he was no longer the same person who hurt me, because going through all of the process of being disabled and seeing him slowly lose function of himself made me realize that he's no longer the man in my childhood, and the perspective of like being disabled and having to focus on others made him realize how much he hurt others, and I learned to forgive him because I just saw a different man, and he may not say it now, but I know he thinks differently, and I see how he wants to change, and that's what matters.
Yeah, be more question for our audience.
Right. When it comes to emotional regulation, who do you feel in your life best modeled the best techniques to apply in everyday life?
Honestly, I'm just going with the flow. I don't really have nobody that I could look to that got it all together. I say for me, the only person I could look to for an example is God, because my family's still learning. The grown ones, the young ones, we learning.
I think for me, with emotional regulation, it's easy. I think it's my mom. My mom and myself, we're really, really similar. My mom works in education. My mom is naturally a giver like myself. She's really calm. She's really kind. She taught me kindness. So everything that I put into the world, it came from my mom.
Yeah, I love to say it's very easy. I think I can vent to my mother a lot, and I think she brings a lot of good ideas to the table. I will say that sometimes I don't think I agree with them. Like, I think she will give me good ideas, but I'm like, I don't know if I can really apply that, but I can apply the thinking that she gave me so that I can use that to make my own, make my own idea of what I want to do. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's all accumulation of all the things you put it together and you create your own, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of, that's how I think about it.
Because I came from a very Catholic religious family, none of them know how to regulate their emotions. So I really have to depend on myself, but also kind of looking at the people in your life. I think my cousins are my biggest supporters, and because they went through such a similar things as I did growing up, kind of looking at them and kind of giving them my support. We were both in the same situation for a long time, so kind of having people who share the similar experiences as you really does help.
Yeah, it's crazy that like majority of everybody in here. So by show of hands, does anybody in this room like have somebody that they can look to and say, okay, this person regulates their emotions well? By show of hands. Okay, so we're like the healing generation. Like I said earlier, like these conversations that we having, like this is starting to become normalized, and come from a great family. But in my household, saying that you black out and you go 0 to 100 and you'll do this and you'll do that, like that was like something to brag about, right? Like we'd walk around and say that, like, I'll go off on somebody real quick. Right. But when you really look at that, you're telling yourself that you don't know how to manage your emotions. And I think for a lot of us, you may be that person in your family that's going to be that example. Right. So I think even for myself, like I'm not perfect at all, but, I tend to like know myself. So I know how to bring myself back when I do, feel a little off, or if I am having a moment. So for everybody in this room, like I mentioned earlier, like I feel like it's really important for you to really sit and take some time with yourself and identify these things, because you might be that person in your family that's going to inspire your little brother or sister or your cousin or even your parent, right? Because for some of us, like, even though we have parents and they older than us and they have wisdom and things like that, they ain't got it right either, right? And, you know, we're supposed to look to them for examples and things like that, but, you know, we don't all have it like that. So, yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions?
What is the best advice you guys can give to students that may feel like they're too young to express themselves to certain adults, whether it's trying to get something started off the ground or an idea that they may have about anything, about becoming a leader?
About becoming a leader? I think, so your question is basically like, what would you tell like a young person who may not have the support systems? Okay. I would always say that, you know, you gotta believe in yourself more than everybody else, right? Because it's your vision. It's what you want to do, right? And I think a lot of times, like, we might look to other people to give us validation, to say like, okay, you're able to do this, you're able to do that. I think even when I look at me starting, you know, this company, this organization, I don't think that anybody that knew me thought I was capable of doing something like this. And I think that when I did speak on it, everybody was just kind of like, yeah, all right, yeah, that's cool. That's what's up. That's what's up, bro. But it wasn't really no support. And I think for me, from the beginning, like, I never was doing it for validation. Like, I validate myself. So that's what kept me pushing, right? Is just putting my blinders on, flashlight on, putting my blinders on, and just focusing on my own mission. So, you know, we may not always have the support, and, you know, a lot of times the support comes later. Like, people tend to like see things kind of moving, and then they jump on the train.
In regards of that, I feel like believing yourself really does help, and knowing that, I feel like the thing that really helped me push through all of this was, at the end of the tunnel, there's always light. No matter how bad it is, I just tell myself, keep going. And then, I don't want to say this because I don't want to like, I'm doing it all out of spite. I want to prove people wrong, because for a long time I was very quiet, I was bullied, and this is my chance to be able to speak up for the people who don't have support, and I want to be there to uplift others who are going through the same things as I am. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question, please? The question, can you repeat it?
It was, what best advice can you give to students that want to branch out and have an idea to give to adults, but, you know, may not always think that it's the best idea or anything like that?
Honestly, I was a rebel child, so I'm gonna do what I want to do. And I feel like, especially with our generation, we're the change makers. Like, we breaking those generational curses. So your parents might not see the vision that you have. Like, for myself, I packed up and moved to Atlanta. I went to visit, and I came back like, I got an apartment. I'll be out next month. And my parents was like, what are you doing? And I did not care, because I knew my journey and my vision. And I knew that as long as I put in the work, it was going to happen. And my parents, whether I'm here or not, or there, they're not going to do the work for me. So why do I need to work to satisfy their needs? I'm doing this for me. So I feel like you should always do what you aspire to do for you, not for the validations of others, because that validation is not going to make you a better person. It's not going to give you more opportunities or take away opportunities. Really, your life is in your hands. So it's what you decide to do with it. That's what matters.
I think for me, you go through the process of trying to get support from trusted adults, but if you can't get support from trusted adults, similar to what Emmanuel said, go through with it yourself. Know your purpose, know your why, and let that fuel you and drive you to do whatever you want. I think people can do literally whatever they put their mind to, as long as you just work hard.
That's real. I think we're all saying the same thing. I think it's trust. I think you got to trust the process. Trust yourself in that process. Trust that you'll be able to get through the process. I think that's easy to say, hard to do, but it is the most important thing for you. You find yourself, then you won't need anybody else. You won't need, like he said, validation from anybody else. You won't need, eventually, I believe that you won't have to do it out of spite. Eventually, it'll be your own journey that you created because, hey, I proved them, but now this is me showing what I can bring to the table of life. You feel what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Oh, we got a question in the back.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for having this discussion. I think this is a great discussion topic. So what I'm asking is, we all know that this is media and social media days, right? And so a lot of our young teens be on social media. So a lot of times you all said some of y'all go to your parents, some of you go to family or friends. So if a person don't have that and they take social media as their outlet, what are some of the things that they can do when they're on social media to be in a positive light, or to look for somebody that's more, in a light of a positive way instead of negative when they're on social media? Because sometimes they ain't talking to us, so they talking to the media or people that's on there that they perceive to be that person to help them. So where can they go and how can that play a part?
Wow, that's a good question. Social media is just like own beast. And I always recommend people not to express themselves like when they going through it on social media. I know we all seen it, but I just don't think it's a safe space to do that. And that's why I recommend people not to do that. And then I always encourage people to like follow some positive pages, man. Like I always tell like my students, like scroll down your feed and then start seeing like what's in your algorithm. Right? Like, what's coming down your timeline? Is it like some negative things? Is it some positive things? Like what's in there, right? And I know you can't really control like what is coming down your feed or what your followers are posting. So, find some dope pages, some motivational pages that like when you open your app, the first thing that you're not seeing is people fighting and arguing and stuff like that.
I believe you really have to sift through the media you are consuming, because as someone who is very involved with politics and journalism, you really have to look at the bias and the kind of view that the kind of information you are getting in, and surrounding yourself with good media. I think also a huge thing is kind of sifting through, try not to express yourself too much on social media, because there can be very harmful stuff on there. And what I've noticed through the internet, that a lot of the culture around it does enable toxicity and apathy. So kind of looking at it through a good lens and seeing the people on there or following pages and like motivational places really do help kind of sifting out the stuff. Yeah.
I think it's very important to be intentional on social media, just intentional in general. But like for me, I like to laugh, so I like to follow funny pages. If you on there nagging all the time, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to mute you, because I don't want to see that. Like, I'm quick to mute somebody. And also, since we're talking about social media, and don't go on social media and start comparing yourself to people, because that's where we kind of drown. And just know, we mostly posting our highlights on social media. We're not posting what we're going through. We're not posting how we was just broke last week, right? We posted when we got the money. So I think it's important to realize that social media is not real life. Social media is highlights of the best parts of your life. And also just vent to people who genuinely care, not to social media, because they don't really care for real. They just looking for something to talk about. Even if they give you good advice, I'm sure they're probably still going to tell their friend, like, you seen that on that line? So, just be mindful of who you follow, what you put out, and what you take in. And this is not about social media, but music too. My girls know I listen to Janae Aiko all day, because we are not listening to Sad, Rod Wade, and all them other people, because that's just, I feel like it influenced depression. But that's another topic. But just be mindful.
I always tell the young people that I work with, also, just be careful on social media. I wouldn't recommend venting on social media. We're in an era that trolls on social media. So, I mean, you post something serious on social media and folks are screenshotting and putting you in group chats and all this other stuff. So, I mean, just be mindful, be careful on social media, and then also just cater your social media to your interests and likes. So for me, like I said, I'm big on like community. I'm big on like family and working with young people. So when you follow my social media, that's what you see on my social media. So just cater to your likes, find motivational things, find things that make you funny or make you laugh and make things enjoyable for you, and just cater to your needs.
Yeah, social media is not real life. Like, it's not, bro. Like, I think that's just what you have to find out first. It's just not real life. And then you, like, you know what I'm saying? I think you can go about it the best way. You can just use it as a tool, or you can use it the best way that's possible. You can use it for marketing. You can use it to make money. You know what I'm saying? But y'all, like, I think that once you understand that, yo, this shit ain't for real, or these people aren't being for real, these people aren't being as genuine as they really are, then you can use it in the best ways, or you can manipulate social media to your ability. And yeah, I think the way I do it, I try to separate as much as possible. I'm not really sure how to like battle social media. I think it's in place to challenge people our age very hard and like influence us and drag us in very hard. So I'm not sure how to really defeat it as much as separate from it, you know?
So good. All right, y'all. So that concludes our panel. Again, I thank you all for coming out, and I hope that you all received something today. Even if we just planted a seed, right? That's gonna have you thinking about some of the things that we talked about. I think that, you know, that's dope, and I really hope that you all are able to, you know, transition into adulthood and take some of these things with you. So we're gonna take like a 5-minute break, let y'all stretch y'all legs a little bit, and then we actually gonna put y'all in small groups. So there'll be 3 groups, and then we're gonna, each question that was asked today, that based on the group that you're in, you guys will discuss that question amongst yourself. So I know we got like 3 different schools in here, but feel free to kind of, you know, mingle up and you know, hear the perspective from people that you don't know. All right, cool. Can we clap it up for ourselves?